Yeah, y'all can be seated. All right. Friends, Romans, countrymen, wait. Friends, family, loved ones, we're gathered here today to witness the marriage of Pat Canada and Nick Olson. More importantly, we're here to witness a display of their immense love for and commitment to one another. In this cozy setting, that love is blinding because it's reflected on every face in attendance. Standing up here is like being at the focal point for a beautiful prism of warmth and affection, so thank you all so much for being here and being a part of that atmosphere. I know Pat from birth and whatnot. She's as kind as she is sarcastic, tough as she is sweet, and thoughtful as she is spontaneous. She's also the family Dutch Blitz champion, and she is as competitive as she is annoying when she wins. As far as I remember, we were best friends from day one. Together, we faced down being the new kids every couple of years as our family bounced around at different duty stations. When we were bored, we created imaginary worlds that would have made Tolkien jealous. When one of us struggled, the other supported. And most importantly, when I was being an idiot, Pat was sure to correct me. So, good luck, Nick. The point is, we go way back. Well, it didn't take long for me to realize that I didn't have to protect Pat in the stereotypical older brother fashion. I know Aunt Linda already told us a story about the baseball bat, but there are plenty of other examples. I think learning to box competitively because a guy in a bar was behaving inappropriately is a good example. From day one, she never tolerated fools and was not hesitant to show it. I also have a story for this. At a bar mitzvah when we lived in Tampa, young, probably 15, 16-ish-year-old Patricia helped birth a lifelong musician with 4 simple words. Could someone unplug him? After his band became mildly successful, he came back with, should someone unplug me now, Pat? In her defense, he'd been playing a bass solo for 10 or more minutes, and quite frankly, anyone who thinks a 10-minute bass solo is appropriate for any setting other than a torture chamber needs to rethink their lives. But I digress. My point is this: Pat's strength of will, character, and personality, and her acerbic wit made it so that I never had to worry about the kind of guys who would make it through that gauntlet to meet my family and I. And then, of course, came the outlier over here. I first heard of Nick through some of his high school friends that I met in college at Auburn. So I know everything, Nick. Everything. I'm just kidding. Actually, the only thing I ever really heard about Nick before meeting him were rave reviews. Everybody seemed to love him. And then came the infamous day we finally met. It was a sunny July 4th in D.C., and I was excited to finally see my sister again after a couple years where the Army and COVID made things impossible for me to travel. And at first, Nick seemed like a pretty good guy. He was funny, charming, smart, etc. And we all soaked up the sun just outside the Washington Memorial and just generally had a blast. Then things took a turn. Pat ordered us an Uber so we could go to a party at her friend Kat's apartment, but when it arrived, there wasn't enough room for all of us. So we let Pat, KD, and Tatiana pile into the Uber, and me and Nick stayed behind. My sister was barely out of sight when Nick leaned over and said, "Oh, we could just run there." I said, "You can just run there? That sounds like a nightmare." And so I turned back to my phone and started staring at my Uber app. And then I didn't hear anything from Nick for about 10 seconds. And so I looked up, and Nick had jogged halfway down the street and showed no signs of stopping. So I took off after him, thinking that losing my sister's boyfriend in downtown DC would probably put a damper on the weekend. So we ran 3 miles in July. I was wearing Vans. When we arrived, I introduced myself to Kat, Drew, and their friends, looking like I'd just won a wet t-shirt contest. Let me get the page turned here. As annoyed as I was, I couldn't help but think that it was exactly the kind of spontaneous, high-energy adventure Pat would love. And that brings us to Pat and Nick together. Their friends describe them using some of the words I've already mentioned: high energy, adventurous, and intelligent, and others that I haven't. Bailey, Pat's best friend, said they've got the exact same sense of humor that is not shared with anyone else in the world. And I tend to agree. They're competitive in the extreme, and they adore each other. My mom first realized that Nick was going to be a fixture in our lives when Pat said, among other things, that she respected Nick, which is huge if you know Pat. Liz Olson says that for her family, seeing Nick be softer and more compassionate with Pat than with anyone previously was the tipping point. So both of them seem to have a respect and adoration for each other that seeps into every aspect of their lives. I think that mutual respect is why so many people here today describe them as best friends. Nick and Pat's love story spans many years in which they circled each other but never quite made the leap into a serious adult relationship until COVID and the ensuing quarantine hit. During that time, they started to build the relationship that would bring us to this point. They also got seriously into beer pong for some reason. But that's irrelevant. Or maybe it's not. I remember showing up at Pat's apartment and she told me that she and Nick had been obsessively playing on their back porch. My response was, like, just the two of you? Sure enough, it turned out that Nick and Pat were spending hours playing a party game meant for entire crowds. But that was because the only thing they needed to celebrate was a few solo cups in each other's company. And that may actually be one of the best summaries of their relationship. Apart, they're both hilarious, fun, energetic, professionally smart people. But together, there's something completely familiar and yet somehow better. Pat's go-with-the-flow attitude keeps Nick grounded, while his type A personality keeps her punctual, which Pat experts had previously thought impossible. Their sense of humor can make any situation lighthearted, and their combined brain power can overcome almost any issue. Today, I see two inseparable souls beginning a lifelong journey that they were meant to undertake together. But I've sang their praises enough for one day, so let's get these two off to their happily ever after. All right, you guys have rings? All right. So Pat, place the ring on Nick's hand.
Totally fits.
You guys ready? All right. Do you, Pat, take Nick to be your husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until death do you part?
I do.
And Nick, do you take Pat to be your wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until death do you part?
I do.
I now pronounce you husband and wife. Y'all go on and kiss each other now.
Sick.
Lasted almost the whole time.
Yeah, almost. Go grab that.
There we go.
Pretty sweet kiss.
And now, for the first time as a married couple, Nick Olson and Pat Canaday.
I'm Tyler. I think I'm one of the best men here today. Although I'm not entirely positive. All I know is that I got a text one day from Pat referring to me as one of the best men. And then they asked me to give this speech. So as one of the potential best men here today, I thought it would be appropriate to start with some advice that my brother and my best man gave to me at my wedding. So Nick and Pat, could you look at each other? You need to like face each other, please. much better, all right. Always be kind to one another, because the one you're looking at is the person statistically most likely to murder you. When Pat and Nick started dating, it was kind of like a non-story to me. It just made too much sense for me. When I thought about Nick, I would think about Pat. When I thought about Pat, I would think about Nick. So when they started dating, there was really no doubt in my mind, or even Genevieve's mind, that we would end up here together. So to Nick and Pat.
Cheers.
Cheers. Wait.
Yep, the next one. Cheers.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Bailey. I've had the privilege of being Pat's best friend. Well, as you guys all know, and for infectious personality, fierce loyalty, and genuine friendliness, just the very first of her many best friends. All of you guys. At my wedding a few months ago, Pat spoke of the woman she knew when she met Corey, and that he was my person. But I think for you guys, it isn't as simple as that. Your decade-long journey into finding each other at the right time is a beautiful story. I never imagined Pat could find someone to match her boldness, her ability to live life to the fullest, and the borderline frustrating constant success. I remember knowing it was real when I visited DC. Nick wasn't even there, but the sparkle in Pat's eye every time he would text her, or the long time we spent on FaceTime talking with him, this was it. This was her person. Nick told me at their combined bachelorette party a few weeks ago that he knew Pat was going to marry him when she officially told him that he surpassed me on the list of people she loved. Nick, you are a force of nature just like Pat. Your sense of adventure, drive for success, and unwavering support, and your shared sense of humor make you the perfect match to be with my favorite person. Just like Pat, I feel like I'm a better person because I know you. I'm thrilled to get to witness the two of you take on your life together. Congratulations.
Cheers.
So I'm Don Kennedy, also known as the driver of the 15 passenger. This is my secretary job.
I need someone to move the Buick.
But and I'm a man of few words, so I'll keep it to brief, and most of the time that's what my wife likes. That I've heard over the last couple of days. I thought about Pat and Nick, and I spent some time this morning. I do my quiet time, and I pray for my children every day, and I pray for who they're going to marry one day, and who they are marrying. And one is that they love each other. You can see that in their eyes, but you can also see that they make each other better. They complement each other. And they recognize the fact that they complement each other, and they make each other better, and so that warms my heart to see that. The other thing that tells me that they're going to have a fantastic marriage is that they make each other laugh. As a matter of fact, they laugh so much that most of the time I don't know what they're laughing about. But I try to keep up with them, but it's not easy. But they have such a great time together. And you can tell that them being with one another is the best part of their lives. And then the last piece that I'll just say is that you guys represent what is going to hold them together, all of us together. And you represent those that are not here as well. With that, I'm going to toast Nick and Pat.
You're here.
Cheers.
No more for you.
Okay, that's enough.
Get over here.
teacher.
We're driving home.
They go all the way.
Wow, this is a disaster. It's like it's already pretty soon.
On the side of your face before.
No. This is ice up. Wait, what was that, Pat? All right, we did it. Mission complete.
Give me a pageant.